Ryan Sundberg, thanks so much for coming back to Has-Been today for round two.
Thank you for having me.
And if you can let the folks know at home and on the internet, you're heading into the runoff in the lead. How do you hope to maintain that lead and bring it home for a final victory November 2nd?
Well, I think it's just going to come down to hard work. You know, we're out knocking on doors. We just had a fundraiser last night that was very successful. We had almost 300 people come to our fundraiser at Sherry Heights Casino, and we raised quite a bit of money, so we have to be able to get our word out on the radio and the TV and all that. So I'm excited. There's a lot going on, but I think we're going to just go down to hard work and knocking on a lot of doors and talking to as many people as we can. Take it home in November.
So just jumping right into the issues, living wage jobs. How do you think those can best be created, or how can the county best facilitate the creation of those over the next 4 years?
Yeah, I was actually just clicked on the Time Standard website right before I came here, and they had one of the breaking news flashes that the pulp mill is all the way gone now. So I was pretty disappointed. I was really looking forward to having that come back online and all the jobs that came with it. And man, I wish there was something that they could have done to save that place. You know, it was a chlorine-free pulp mill, and it's kind of fit Humboldt County and have good living wage jobs. So I think it's the county's gonna have to work even harder now. To get other industries in here. Light industries. I think in McKinleyville especially. And maybe in Hoopaw or Willow Creek, if we could create some light industry space and rezone places so businesses can come in here. I don't think there's going to be any big businesses going in anywhere in the 5th District, but if we can help these smaller businesses start up and give them a shot, those are the businesses that grow real fast in Humboldt County, and hire 5-10 people, and you get enough of those going, and can have something. What else we need to do is protect the rest of our fishing and timber industry too. Especially the fishing industry is very fragile. They have the Marine Life Protection Act that's trying to go through, and pretty much if they got that through the way that they wanted, the way the state wanted, it would pretty much finish off the fishing industry on the North Coast. And so I think we've got a good proposal right now with them on kind of mediating it and opening up more areas so that they'll be able to fish more spots, and I think that it's looking good right now with that process. But so those are a couple of the things that I think that need to be protected and started to help with that.
And that Headwaters Fund, of course, was created over a decade ago, supposedly to help create jobs lost from the decline of the timber industry. Your opponent was on that board for 10 years, chair of it for several of those. Do you really think it's done the job of actually creating jobs versus simply, handing out favors to folks well connected to county government?
I don't think I think it's done a pretty good job. I mean, there's always, hindsight's always 20/20, and I don't think it's just handing out favors. I think that the proposals that go through there are vetted, and a lot of businesses gamble, and anything that they do, it's always a gamble, and some of them they lost on. Especially like the Delta flights. It didn't last, and spent a lot of money on that and some other projects. But there's also a lot of good projects they did, and helped some businesses start up, and so I mean, it is what it is. So.
And as far as that Redwood Coast Energy Authority, it seemed like they had more of a public profile a few years ago than they do now. A lot of people talk about wanting to do green jobs, but what do you think the county can do concretely to actually create those green jobs and get people back to work?
Yeah, there's a few things I've told people about. There was a company who came up and talked to our Rancheria, and what they do is they make light bulbs, and they make everything from the little tiny light bulbs up to the industrial size lights. And in the smaller light bulbs, instead of the fluorescent ones they have now, they last a long time and they don't use as much energy, but you still throw the whole thing away. These ones have a little chip where the light is, and you just take that chip out and replace the chip, and you have another light. so you have to throw the whole container away again. And they came up here. They've got operations on the East Coast and are looking to come west. And so they came to Humboldt County into our Rancheria and are looking for somewhere to build over here and start one of those plants. It'll be about 200 jobs, all green jobs.
As far as the county's redevelopment proposal, that sort of blew up in their face a couple years back, largely because communities like Glendale or Redway basically said they didn't want the county telling them how they should develop. Do you think that was an example of the county really kind of wasting taxpayer resources, or do you think that's an idea that should be reconsidered but in a different manner?
Well, I know that there's other communities that really enjoyed it. Like Willow Creek has, their whole downtown was redone, and Oric has applied for money to redevelop the downtown Oric. So there's other communities that have really taken it and run with it too, and I think that especially Willow Creek, it looks beautiful when you drive in there, and people used to just drive real fast right through and not even know it was a town really. It was just kind of a little glance, and now people go in there and stop and they shop, and it's a nice little place now. And I think that if they have their own plans, then so be it. They can do whatever they want. It's their community, but if they want to take the other resources that are available to them and do something, then they should do that too. So if they want to stay on their own, I think they have that right.
Well, one thing we didn't get to in round one was your assessment of the outgoing incumbent 5th District Supervisor Jill Geist. She was elected on a very progressive platform, but some say she kind of went a different direction over time. Just like Ron Paul in Congress, kind of known as Dr. No because he votes no on almost everything. Doesn't think the Fed should be involved in constitutionally. Do you think Jill Geist kind of became known as Mrs. No, opposing police review, opposing the medical cannabis ordinance, opposing almost any new thing the board tried to implement over the last few years here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that she said yes on a lot of things, and I know the police review. I talked to her about that, and she was worried that there wasn't. They had a proposal and no amount of money that was going to be spent, and they didn't know where the money was going to be spent from. I think that's very legitimate. I mean, you shouldn't create things not knowing how much they're going to cost and where the money is going to be spent from. I mean, that just sounds logical to me. And so there's, as far as being on a progressive ticket and then going more conservative, she disagrees with that. I asked her about that too. She said, I haven't changed. She said, people try and paint you a certain way and you are what you are. And she said, I don't think that she's changed that much, and people probably perceive things differently, but I think she's done a good job, and I think she's happy with the progress that she got out of being in there 8 years, and she had some goals that she wanted to accomplish and did, and so she's ready to move on now, and I think she did a good job.
Well, how would you say you're going to do things similarly to her and differently from her?
I think that with the fisheries stuff, she's on the board or the committee that oversees the Klamath River and all that, taking out the dams, and I look forward because the next 5th District Supervisor will be in that role, and I look forward to taking that on and being on that committee. And the salmon and the Klamath River, I grew up pretty much on the Klamath River when I was a kid, and it means a lot to me, and being able to further that along and make sure that our salmon are protected for my kids and my kids' kids is something that I take a lot of pride in. I think that where we differ is I like being out in the community a lot more. I like going to all the events and parades, and and I've got a young family, and so my kid likes to go to all those things too, so we pack her along with us, and it's so that's just my personality, is I like to be out in the public and talking to people and all that, so I think that's where we might differ just a little bit.
Now one thing the next board, depending on the outcome of the race in the 4th District here in Eureka, might have a strong influence over who next represents us in the Coastal Commission, assuming it is going to be Supervisor Bass and not Supervisor Neely next year. While the governor gets to make the pick, he does rely pretty heavily on the recommendation of the local board. What would you say your criteria would be, assuming it's not Supervisor Neely getting in there again, as far as who should represent Humboldt County on the Coastal Commission?
Who do I think should be represented?
Well, not necessarily who you think among the supervisors or yourself, but what would your criteria to be to determine who would you recommend? What would be their attributes that you would want to see brought forward?
Well, I think first of all, it has to be somebody who's open-minded, someone who doesn't have their mind made up already. Someone who's willing to talk to both sides of the aisle and get all the information and then make their decision based off of that. So I think that's my number one, is to make sure that the person's open-minded and is willing to listen to more than one group of people. I think that's very important in any political role. Someone who knows about the coast and has some experience in that, and I think that kind of a person and that kind of personality with a little bit of experience would make a good coastal commissioner.
Now, the eastern part of the 5th District there, Willow Creek, kind of saw its hopes rise and then dashed as far as the whole broadband connectivity. The whole 299 proposal, for whatever reasons, fell apart. The latest one that seems like it's going to happen, hopefully, maybe, is the proposal for the Highway 36 line. Of course, that would totally bypass Willow Creek and the rest of the 299 corridor. When are those folks up there going to ever get broadband connectivity?
Well, there's more proposals than that out there. There's another one called Redwood Telephone that's their whole goal, is to service rural areas. Willow Creek, Upa, all the way out to Orleans, Wichipeg, out to Oric, and so that company is also moving along pretty well with their grant applications for ARA funding through the American Reinvestment Act. So if they come through, so I'm glad there's more than one proposal going through right now, because if there wasn't, they could be out. But there is other proposals out there, and I think it's very important to push those through.
The whole Ridgewood question in Cuddon, South Eureka area. Bonnie Neely has definitely defended that whole process, because the state is trying to impose these housing targets that the county has to build more affordable housing. Where do you come down on it? Do you think Ridgewood is the right kind of development because of the amount of open space and parkland, or do you think it really does represent something that's more aptly described as sprawl and aptly described as parasitic on the city of Eureka and their finances?
Well, you have to have a certain amount of growth to get the state grants. So you can't take the state grants and then not have any growth or plan for the growth, and plan for different, having low income, middle income, and very low income housing. Those have to be part of it, or where are those people going to live, So and that is an infill project, and that's what my opponent's been for the whole time, is for infill. So I think that you have to have it, and I hope that they can mitigate the impacts that it has on the rest of the community out there. It's the first one that I know of that's actually planned out that far. It's what's it, 20 years I think it's planned out to be. So I'm glad that they are taking steps to plan out the growth instead of just a hodgepodge of growth here and there. That's when you end up having things that you really don't want.